I know you missed me. Welcome to season 2 of CMYK Play. I am Teresa, your lovely fiber artisan, dyer extraordinaire. Here we will be exploring and experimenting using CMYK. C standing for cyan, Y standing for yellow, M standing for magenta, and K standing for black. Each week in this series, we'll be exploring and experimenting using dry powder, stock mixtures, and occasionally a combination of the two. Today's episode is on a colorway we are calling Dark Autumn Gold. Now, this season, we are creating colorways for a project. I have not announced this project. This is the first time I'm going to be speaking about it. I am collaborating with Jennifer Tipton of Designs by Jennifer Tipton on Instagram. We are creating these colorways. Right now we're thinking 5 minis and a full skein, and what we're trying to do is she's going to design a hat and mitts. We're going to try to get a hat and mitts out of 5 worsted minis and a full skein of worsted. And I think it's going to be really fun. Let me pop on the screen here for you the 2 different color schemes that we're going to be working with. I am not entirely sure that all of these colors we're actually going to create for the season, because some of them, the values would make a very boring episode, to be honest. Like I said, today's episode, the first color we're working on, we're calling a Dark Autumn Gold. Everything you need to know about what dye I'm using and what form I'm using it in, and any other relevant information will be located in the description box below. These experiments are done using 75% superwash merino and 25% nylon sock yarn. Please keep in mind that what I'm doing on the show, there is no right or wrong way to do what I'm doing. These are just my experiments and how I'm doing it. There are a few things that will change the outcome of your experiments at home, namely being if you use a different yarn base than I'm using, if you choose to use different dyes, and if your water is more or less acidic than mine. I encourage you to use this information as a jumping off point for your experiments at home. Let's go to past me in the dye studio and see about mixing up some Dark Autumn Gold. Hello and welcome to another episode of CMYK Play. Today we are going to be working on a Dark Autumn Gold, and we will be using magenta, yellow, and black. I'll pop a picture up on the screen of the color that we're shooting for, but without further ado, let's get started. So the CMYK values for this is 36 magenta, 50 yellow, 3 black. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to start out with the yellow and kind of add in the magenta, and then since the black is such a small amount, we're going to slowly add in the black. So let's get started. So 50% magenta. We are going to start with let's start with 2 tablespoons of I'm sorry, 50% yellow. Let's start with 2 tablespoons of yellow. And this is this color is kind of like an orangey color. So let's start there. And then I'm going to go with the very teeny tiny, I'm going to start with the pinch, the 1/16 of a teaspoon, a little bitty guy, because this magenta, as we've seen in previous episodes, is very, very strong color. So, and since this color orange that we're going for is very specific, I don't want to use the bigger measurements right off the bat. So that looks still pretty yellow, and we're trying to get a little bit of an orange. So we did 1/16. We're gonna go for a second 1/16. And then let's give it a test. See if we got any more orange. Nope, still pretty yellow. That was the first one. This is the second one. So I'm actually gonna go with 2 more. So we're up to 4 of the 1/16. I don't know in my head I'll have to math that out later once we figure out how many we're going to add to figure out if it's close to 1/8 of a teaspoon or not. That is starting to get kind of orangey in the cup anyway. I don't know if you guys can see that. It is very orangey in the cup. So let's see how it looks on paper towel. So first, second, third. I wonder if this is going to end up being like an episode where we can't tell until it's on the yarn. Alright, I'm going to add 2 more pinches. Because in the cup I'm seeing a very orange color, but on the paper towel it's just showing yellow. I forget what episode that was. I will I'll pop it up on the screen here. I'll go back and figure out which episode that was, but there was an episode last season where it didn't matter how many times we used the paper towel test, it looked like brown. So I'm wondering if this is going to be, I added 2 more. I wonder if this is going to be like that, where everything, oh, nope. There, we definitely have a slightly orange color. So I'm going to go ahead and start adding in the black, and I'm going to use the same measurement because the black is even smaller. It's like 3%. So I am going to use the pinch again. We just want to darken it up slightly. 1/16 of the black to give it that, because the color is called dark autumn gold. So we just want to like darken it up just slightly. Now it's got kind of a brown hue to it. I really like that. All right, since I got magenta on this side of the paper towel test, I'm gonna get a fresh one. I really like that, although I want to use this as our base. That color definitely looks a lot more orange, and that looks a little bit more honey mustard. But I want to start this as our base, and I want to see what it actually looks like on the yarn, and then we will adjust in 2 and 3 from there. So I will meet you over at the pots, and we will get started on number 1. So in goes the color, or attempt number 1. And there is no citric acid. This is just plain tap water. What we do here is we start out with just plain tap water in the dye, and as it heats up, we will add the citric acid in. I find that doing it this way gets a more even, solid color, if that's what you're going for. The yarn that we are dyeing on is a superwash merino, 75% superwash, 25% nylon. Oh yeah, that's very yellow. And yeah, we are definitely going to need to work on that a little bit. It needs to be way more magenta added to make that, get that orange hue that we're looking for. So I'm going to go ahead and stir this until I feel some heat in the pot, and then I will be back with you to add the citric acid and work on attempt number 2. Okay, so I'm starting to feel a little heat in the water. So we are going to add our citric acid. We're going to add 2 tablespoons to the pot. So I did a little research while I was standing here waiting for the water to warm up. In a teaspoon, there are 16 1/16. So 16 of those pinches. So we did 6 of them. So we did a little bit more than 1/4 of a teaspoon. So I'm going to start with doubling that. So we're going to start with half a teaspoon of the magenta and see where that gets us, because this is a little, it's got a little bit of orange to it, but it's not quite that dark autumn gold in the picture. So I'm gonna head on back over to the mixing table and we're gonna get started on attempt number 2. See there? Okay, so we're back at the mixing table and I'm gonna keep the yellow at the same. I think the shade of that yellow is good, at least for right now. So we're gonna keep the yellow at 2 tablespoons, and there are 1/16 in a teaspoon. So like I said, we did 6 of them, which is a little bit more than a quarter of a teaspoon. So I'm gonna start with I'm gonna start with a half a teaspoon. And then we will see where we're at with that. So we have 2 tablespoons of yellow. I'm gonna add a little water to this. Okay, so we're going to do half a teaspoon. Of course, I didn't pull that one out. We're going to start with a half a teaspoon of the magenta, which is effectively doubling what we did the last round. So we did 6 and 4 is a quarter. So we're going to start with half a teaspoon and see what that looks like. Still pretty golden yellow, not really an orange yet. So I am going to start adding quarter teaspoons here. So we started with a half a teaspoon, and I'm going to be adding quarter teaspoons in until we get to a somewhat orange color. So now we have 3/4 of a teaspoon of the magenta. And you can see we're starting to get more of an orange color. I'm going to add another quarter teaspoon. I have to wipe this off. So we are up to a teaspoon of magenta now. Okay, here we go. Now we're starting to get in the ballpark. That is a nice shade that we're starting to see. So I think I'm gonna go ahead and add 1 more quarter teaspoon. So we're up to 1 1/4 teaspoon. If I've gone too far, we'll be able to back up in the 3rd attempt. Sometimes it's hard to tell with this magenta when you're gonna go too far. So I like that. I don't think I went too far. I'm gonna add the black in now. So in the last attempt we did 1 of the pinches, just 1 of the 1/16. So I'm gonna do that again because it's such a small amount. I wanna see how it looks. It darkens it up enough. I think in attempt number 2, the name of the game might be pushing it. Pushing it to see. I don't know. Definitely browned it up a little bit. Let's see. Let's live on the edge. Let's go with 2. And if we have to back down on the next skein, at least we know now. It's definitely browned it up a bit. So we're gonna go with this for attempt number 2. I will meet you over at the pots. And let's see what happens on the yarn here. All right, in goes our temp number 2. Turn on the heat. I'm gonna stir it up. See what we got here. Well, off the top here, it seems that we have yellow, but I have found with magenta that sometimes it takes a little while and the water needs to heat up before that magenta will grab onto the yarn. So I'm gonna go ahead and stand here and stir this until I start to feel some heat in the water, and then we will check back to add the citric acid, see where we're at, and move on to the third attempt. Okay, so I'm starting to feel some heat in the water. There is still a lot of red in this water, so I'm gonna add the citric acid, and then I'm gonna keep stirring this for a little bit so I can make a better judgment call. I think I need to add a lot more of the red to get the orange that we're looking for. I think I'm afraid, and that's why I have been babying this. You can see it's a very pale color, but it's just not quite near that picture. And I think I just need to stop being afraid. There's no wrong color. I don't know why I'm being so afraid. Probably because I'm trying to do this for a specific project. But at least this will get me, if I have to do another one to get to that color that we're trying to get for this project. So I'm gonna go ahead and keep stirring this for a while until some of the color starts really sinking into the yarn, and then I will be back with you so we can decide what we're going to do for attempt number 3. So I've been stirring it for a while now, and most of that, I would rather say, magenta has struck the yarn now. So I feel like we're in the right direction, but it's still very pale and not quite the shade. So I'm gonna meet you back at the mixing table. I got some ideas. Okay, so we're back. So the last attempt we did 2 tablespoons of yellow, 1 1/4 teaspoon of magenta, and 2 1/16 pinches of black. So I think we need to I think I need to stop being afraid. So I'm gonna start with, I want all the colors overall to be more rich. It needs them to be more rich, and we need more magenta, so I need to stop being afraid. So I'm gonna go with 2 tablespoons of yellow, 1 tablespoon of magenta, and then we'll figure out the black. But the CMYK values for magenta is 36 and the yellow is 50, so 36 is more than half. So I'm going to start with half, which would be, I guess, effectively 25. It's not like a exact science, and then we will see what that leads us. So we're going to do 2 tablespoons of yellow, and 1 tablespoon of magenta, and I'm going to add some water to this. Alright, so that looks very, very orange in the cup. So let's see what it looks like on the paper towel. Moment of truth. Okay, that is very, very orange. Very orange. So I want to just go rogue. We did 2 of the 1/16 of the black. Because the thing is when you add the black to the yellow, it's gonna give it that more brown effect. So I'm gonna start with, put a 1/4 teaspoon of the black in and see where that is. Let's see what that looks like. Oh, we're back to it looking like brown on the paper towel. So I'm gonna add We did a 1/4 teaspoon of the black. And we had 1 tablespoon of magenta. I did a little bit of mathing on Google. So I did 1 tablespoon, and it takes 3 teaspoons to make a tablespoon. So I'm gonna add another teaspoon of magenta in, because I really want to see that orange come back out in this cup. Because I think for some reason we lost a lot of that orange. It still needs to be orange, it just needs to be a little bit tamer than before we put the black in. There we go. See, that's what I'm wanting to see. I want to see that orange in the paper towel. All right, I'm going 1 more. I want to see what 1 more looks like. 1 more teaspoon of the magenta. All right. I love a good challenge. Okay. So that is definitely an orange. I would say, dare I say, gold. So I'm not going to push it anymore. Let's see what this looks like on the yarn. And then when I dye the yarn for this project that I'm working on, I can make adjustments from here. So I'll meet you over at the pots. Okay, so attempt 1 has been in the water now with the citric acid for quite some time. That's what that's looking like. This is attempt 2 that's been in the pot for a while. It's kind of orange, but not toned down enough. So in goes attempt number 3. No fear. No fear. It's gonna be great. Maybe. No, it's gonna be great. There is no bad color. It may just be that we don't reach the color that I wanted. But positive thoughts, positive thoughts. All right, moment of truth. Here we go. And just like all the other ones, we are gonna have to wait a bit to be able to actually see this one. So I am gonna stir this puppy around in the pot until I feel some heat, and then I will be back with you to add citric acid. Okay, so we're starting to feel a little heat in the pot. I'm gonna add the citric acid. It is definitely rosier than I think we want, but the thing is that when you guys are experimenting, never judge your yarn until it's been washed and dried, because sometimes wet yarn can look wildly different than dry yarn. So, but this definitely has a little bit more of a rosier, which is kind of what I was trying to avoid, but we'll see for sure once it's been washed and dried. So I'm gonna go on and keep stirring this. I want to see what it looks like once some more of this magenta has soaken in. I kind of already know that this might have been a little too much, but now I have like a ballpark. I think I need to get between this attempt 2 and attempt 3. But like I said, we'll see once it's washed and dried. So I am gonna send you back to Present Me. All right, so I just wanted to pop on here actually before I send you back to Present Me. I've been stirring this for a while, and a lot of the magenta has struck. And I'm gonna say right now that I'm not sure. I'm not sure. The other issue is, so for the project that I'm dyeing these colors, trying to come up with these colors for, this is dyed on 70% superwash, 25% nylon, but the base that I'm going to be dyeing on is a worsted base, which is 100% superwash merino. So generally what I found is that because of the nylon, the 75-25 is not as vibrant as it turns out on the 100% superwash. So I have to keep that in mind too. So, I don't know. I'm going to leave it at, I don't know, because this is wet. And I'm going to send you back to Present Me now for real. And we will see what happened once this was washed and dried. Welcome back. I'm having deja vu. I say that because these colorways are are eerily similar to, I'm not sure if it was episode 1 or 2, but of season 1, where we tried to get an amber color. And these colorways, the CMYK values were very close to that. Like, I feel like any orange you try to create is gonna have very similar CMYK values. They are different. They could be close cousins. So let's go over our attempts, shall we? So attempt number 1 was 1/4 teaspoon plus 2 1/16 teaspoons of magenta, 2 tablespoons of yellow, and 1/16 teaspoon of black. It's very similar to like a honey mustard, like maybe a brighter honey mustard. But that is attempt number 1. It's a very nice mellow yellow, if you will. Attempt number 2 was 1 1/4 teaspoon magenta, 2 tablespoons of yellow, and 2 1/16 teaspoons of black. It's more orangey than attempt number 1. I think the problem I was running into, and I talked a little bit during the dye session about it, is that when trying to create any kind of orange, I get really nervous about adding too much magenta. But I finally just went for it in the 3rd attempt. We did 1 tablespoon plus 2 teaspoons of magenta, 2 tablespoons of yellow, and 1/4 teaspoon of black. And here is attempt number 3. So pretty. It is a very pretty orange color. Now, did we achieve the dark autumn gold? If I had to pick one that was the closest, I'd say it was attempt number 3. But I honestly think that it's somewhere between these two. I had written down a fourth like formula, kind of like splitting like in half of in between these two, but I haven't dyed it yet because I wanted to see what it looked like when it was dry. I love all the colors. I'm still going with I don't know. I'm still gonna go with I don't know. Like I said, I think this one's probably the closest, even though I still think we would need to tone it down a little bit. It's the color. I want to pop that picture back up on the screen here for a second for you. To me, that color, that dark autumn gold color, is a little paler. It's definitely between 2 and 3. You can go ahead and let me know what you think in the comments. The other thing is I have these colors that I'm working off of, but they don't necessarily need to be 100% either. Like, I'm just like, this is the color scheme that I'm going for. There's no like written rule that says I have to get this color and that's what it has to be. It just never works out that way. As you experiment, you'll realize that you go in with the best of intentions and you can get so close. But when working off of pictures, sometimes I've found that close enough is good enough, if that makes any sense. I'm gonna wait until I have all the colors, and then I'm gonna put them together, and then I will make my final decision. Like I said before, there is no wrong color. This is all experimenting, and every color that I come up with is gorgeous. These experiments, even if it wasn't close to the intended photo. But these 3 will be up on my site, my new website, to buy when this episode airs. On my new website, I have all 3 bases. My fuzzy fingering, which is the 7525, the fuzzy DK, and the fuzzy worsted are open for back orders. So that's a little bit different than how it used to be set up on my old website. You will be able to, like, if you like this color, you can order it on whatever base. So these will be up for sale when this episode airs. During my little break, I made a few decisions about how I'm going to move forward with CMYK play, because during the first season I realized that it is just a lot. It's a lot to do an episode every week. So I will be moving CMYK format to every other Friday. That doesn't mean there won't be uploads. It's just CMYK specifically will be every other Friday. The other reason for that is because I have other ideas of things that I want to do for this YouTube channel. To allow time for that, I need to free up some of those other days for other things. If you haven't yet, I uploaded, I'm calling them pod chats. I'm not sure how often those are going to be done either, because I don't typically have a lot to say about things, but keep your eyes peeled for some other type of content that will be coming. Thank you for tuning in. If you haven't already, please like and subscribe to my channel. It really helps me out. And I will see you guys next time. Happy dyeing!